It's Monday, 23 December. Welcome to the President's Daily Brief. I'm Mike Baker, your eyes and ears on the world stage. And in our continuing game of Where's Waldo, appearing today from an airport somewhere in the Northwest, heading out towards the Far East. So, with that said, let's get briefed. We'll start the show with the tragedy in Germany, where a driver deliberately plowed into a crowded Christmas market, leaving 5 dead and over 200 injured. Authorities are investigating the suspect's motives as the nation mourns. Later in the show, we'll cover a case of friendly fire over the Red Sea, where 2 U.S. Navy pilots were forced to eject after their jet was struck by fire from a U.S. warship. Plus, we'll have an update on the Gaza ceasefire negotiations, where Palestinian officials are claiming a deal is nearly complete and only a few sticking points remain. And in today's Back of the Brief, good news for the new de facto head of Syria, as the U.S. is scrapping the long-standing $10 million bounty on his head. But first, today's PDB Spotlight. A devastating act of terror unfolded this weekend in Magdeburg, Germany. A driver plowed a vehicle into a bustling Christmas market, killing at least 5 people, including a 9-year-old child, and injuring over 200 others. The suspect has been identified as a 50-year-old Saudi national and doctor named Taleb Abdul Mohsen. He was arrested, and I apologize if I got the pronunciation wrong. He was arrested at the scene after his vehicle came to a halt amidst the carnage. Authorities have since charged him with multiple counts of murder and attempted murder, calling the attack a deliberate act of terrorism. The scene at the Christmas market was, frankly, one of horror. Witnesses described the moment that the car careened through the festive gathering as both sudden and violent. Stalls were destroyed, decorations scattered, and the joyful sounds of the season replaced by screams. Emergency responders arrived swiftly, treating the injured and securing the area as police apprehended the suspect. Now, this attack has reignited debates in Germany and across Europe about domestic security and immigration policies. Germany has experienced several high-profile terror incidents in recent years, with some tied to radicalized individuals exploiting open borders. Critics argue that not enough is being done to vet individuals entering the country, while others caution against using this tragedy to vilify entire communities. The timing of the attack is also notable. Christmas markets are, of course, a beloved tradition in Germany, drawing millions of visitors each year. But this isn't the first time that a Christmas market has been the target of a terror attack. Back in 2016, a similar attack in Berlin claimed 12 lives and injured dozens when a truck was deliberately driven into a market, and that incident was later linked to ISIS. Now, we've already begun to learn some details about the suspect, and authorities are already piecing together a motive. He fled to Germany as a Saudi refugee in 2006 and gained official refugee status in 2016. Over the years, he became a prominent member of the Saudi community in Germany as an outspoken anti-Islam and women's rights activist. He ran a website and social media channels dedicated to both of those causes, which drew both support and, of course, controversy. In social media posts just days before the attack, he criticized the German government, accusing it of promoting the Islamization of the country. He also alleged that authorities were censoring him because of his views. Investigators are now analyzing these posts along with his digital footprint to better understand his motives. However, based on what we've already learned, it doesn't sound like your normal jihadi attack. In fact, he sounds rather anti-Islam and Islamophobic. In response to the attack, German Chancellor Olaf Scholz has vowed to bolster security measures. Police presence at public events has been increased nationwide, and counterterrorism units are on high alert. However, many are questioning whether these steps are enough to prevent future attacks. Internationally, leaders have condemned the violent attack. In a statement, U.S. President Biden expressed solidarity with Germany, calling the attack a, quote, heinous affront to humanity. French President Emmanuel Macron echoed those sentiments, emphasizing the importance of cross-border cooperation to combat terrorism. All right. Coming up next, a case of friendly fire over the Red Sea forces 2 U.S. Navy pilots to eject and an update on Gaza ceasefire talks, with a deal reportedly near completion. I'll have those stories when we come back. Welcome back to the PDB. It was a close call for a pair of U.S. Navy pilots this weekend when their FA-18F Super Hornet fighter jet was mistakenly shot down by friendly fire over the Red Sea. According to U.S. Central Command, the guided missile cruiser USS Gettysburg misidentified the aircraft as a threat, firing upon it and forcing the two pilots to eject. Thankfully, both were safely recovered, and initial assessments indicate that just one of the crew sustained minor injuries. The incident occurred as the Navy carried out strikes against Houthi militants in Yemen as part of the U.S.-led Operation Prosperity Guardian. That's the ongoing multinational operation to protect merchant traffic in the region. Over the weekend, U.S. forces attacked the Yemeni capital of Sana'a, striking a missile storage facility and a command and control node. CENTCOM also said it struck multiple Houthi one-way attack uncrewed aerial vehicles, fancy way of saying drones, and intercepted an anti-ship cruise missile over the Red Sea. The Iranian-backed Houthis continue to be a nuisance, I guess that's putting it mildly, in the region. As a reminder, since November 2023, Houthi missile and drone attacks have sunk 2 vessels in the Red Sea. Yeah, that's a nuisance, and damaged several others. They've claimed that they are targeting ships only linked to Israel, the U.S., or the U.K. However, they often fire at ships indiscriminately. Adding to the weekend's escalation, a missile fired by Houthi militants landed in Tel Aviv's southern Jaffa area. The Houthis claimed responsibility, saying their hypersonic ballistic missile named Palestinian 2 struck an Israeli military target in Jaffa. A Houthi spokesman said the group's fighters had launched the missile to, quote, aid the victory of the oppressed Palestinian people and its fighters. In fact, the missile landed in the middle of a playground. The attack set off air raid sirens across central Israel, ordering hundreds of thousands of residents to enter reinforced bomb shelters. Emergency services reported 16 minor injuries from shattered glass and another 14 injuries sustained as people sought shelter. The incident marks a rare failure of Israel's missile defense systems, but it's not the first Houthi projectile to land on Israeli territory. Back in July, the Houthis claimed responsibility for a deadly drone attack in Tel Aviv, the first such strike on the city by the group. All right, shifting now to the ongoing ceasefire negotiations between Israel and Hamas. A hostage release deal is reportedly nearing completion, with one Palestinian official describing progress as much as 90% complete. All right, we've still got 10% to go. As we've been covering here on the PDB, the proposed ceasefire framework, which has come together through talks in Egypt and Qatar over the past several weeks, consists of 3 stages. However, before any of that can begin, there are still a few major gaps between the sides, most notably about the ongoing IDF presence inside Gaza. According to the BBC on Saturday, a senior Palestinian official involved in the negotiations raised concerns about the proposed establishment of a several-mile-wide buffer zone along Israel's border with Gaza, where Israel would retain a long-term military presence. An equally sticky part of the negotiation is what's referred to as the Philadelphia corridor. That's the 9-mile border between Gaza and Egypt, which once served as a strategic lifeline to Hamas, but is currently occupied by the IDF. While Israeli Prime Minister Netanyahu has vowed to maintain control over the corridor, Defense Minister Israel Katz offered a more conciliatory tone last week, stating that there was a possibility for a gradual Israeli withdrawal from the area. According to an Egyptian outlet, once these issues are addressed, the ceasefire could be finalized within days. Once the signatures are in place, the deal would begin with a phased exchange of hostages and prisoners. The first stage involves the release of 34 Israeli hostages, including 11 men, 5 female soldiers, and older or medically vulnerable individuals, in return for 250 Palestinian prisoners. The final list of prisoners, drawn from a group of around 400 individuals serving long sentences in Israeli prisons, has yet to be confirmed. Hamas is reportedly facing challenges in locating some of the 96 hostages believed to be in Gaza, only 62 of whom are thought to be alive. However, in a display of optimism, representatives from Hamas, Palestinian Islamic Jihad, and the Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine, in a joint statement after talks in Cairo on Saturday, stated, quote, "The possibility of reaching an agreement is closer than ever, provided Israeli troops stop imposing new conditions," end quote. Israel has remained relatively quiet on the recent developments, likely in an effort to manage expectations. However, the government continues to face pressure from the families of those still held in Gaza to secure a deal. The coming days will, of course, test the resolve of both sides as they grapple with the task of crafting a lasting peace. And as always, I hesitate to use the word lasting or permanent when it comes to the region. So let's just go with a temporary ceasefire. Coming up in the back of the brief, the U.S. is removing a $10 million bounty on Ahmed al-Sharaa, also known as Mohammed al-Jolani, the Syrian leader of HTS, who helped topple President Assad's regime. We'll be right back. In today's back of the brief, the U.S. announced plans to lift the $10 million bounty on Ahmed al-Sharaa, also known as Mohammed al-Jolani, the head of HTS, following the toppling of President Assad's regime in Syria earlier this month. In the meeting, led by Assistant Secretary of State for Near Eastern Affairs Barbara Leaf, the HTS leader committed to ensuring terrorist groups in Syria do not pose a threat to the U.S. and its allies, and that's a key condition for any future U.S. support, of course. Leaf described the discussions with HTS as, quote, quite good, very productive, it seems positive, and noted that the HTS leader presented a, quote, pragmatic stance on various issues, including women's rights and the protection of minority communities. It's an apparent departure from HTS's earlier reputation. Leaf stated, quote, "We will judge by deeds, not just by words. Deeds are the critical thing," end quote. Well, she's not wrong. According to NBC News, the U.S. is also exploring the possibility of removing HTS from its terrorist list. This decision hinges on the group meeting specific criteria, including ensuring Syria does not threaten its neighbors and avoiding alliances with terrorist organizations like ISIS. Yeah, you would think those would be conditions. The Biden administration is aware of the complications that such sanctions create for humanitarian aid in Syria, particularly for groups assisting refugees returning to the country and those displaced by the decade-long conflict. While current sanctions allow dialogue with the HTS, they restrict material support, posing challenges for aid organizations. The meeting also addressed humanitarian concerns and the fate of missing Americans in Syria, including journalist Austin Tice, who was abducted 12 years ago. Roger Carstens, the U.S. Special Envoy for Hostage Affairs, reaffirmed the administration's commitment to finding answers about Tice's condition and bringing him home, stating, quote, "What I can tell you is this. The President of the United States believes Austin to be alive, and it's our duty to keep pressing and pushing to get a sense of certainty about what happened to him," end quote. The U.S. delegation visit follows similar trips by diplomats from France, the U.K., and Germany, reflecting growing international attention on Syria's new interim government. All right. And that, my friends, is the President's Daily Brief for Monday, 23 December. Look at that. You've got 2 more shopping days until Christmas. If you have any questions or comments, please reach out to me at pdb@thefirsttv.com. And I hope you had a chance over the weekend to check out our latest episode of the PDB Situation Report. As always, great guests, insight, news you can use. I hope you tune in. You can find it on our YouTube channel at President's Daily Brief and, of course, all podcast platforms. To listen to the show ad-free, well, you know the drill. You can become a premium member of the President's Daily Brief by simply visiting pdbpremium.com. I'm Mike Baker. I'll be back later today with the PDB Afternoon Bulletin. Until then, stay informed, stay safe, stay cool. Hey, thanks for tuning in. If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to hit that like button and leave a comment, a really positive, nice, and kind comment. That would be appreciated. And if you're not already subscribed to our channel, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you don't miss any of our daily updates.